What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 34 of the Roots of Success podcast. I am your host, Nate the Great Peterman, coming at you. And today we have a very, very special guest. This gentleman definitely is very dear to me. He's what I like to call one of the top realtors in the United States. My man, Robert Nichols. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Nate? Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, for sure, man. I'm glad we could definitely, find some time to make this happen and whatnot. And for those of you who might be wondering, who is Robert Nichols? Give me a little bit of a background. So Robert Nichols is a real estate investor, broker, and lender. He got into real estate in 2004 at the age of 23 by purchasing his first multifamily. He became an agent in 2005 and started a real estate brokerage with a partner in 2006. In 2008, Robert went to work for a new construction company as a project manager and learned the construction business. By 2009, Robert began flipping houses and hasn't stopped since. In addition to his real estate experience, he has begun to share his knowledge in order to educate the next generation of real estate investors. Wow, Rob, that's a lot of info.
Yeah, man. No, it's just a testament to what I'm doing, man. It's been a lot of years in the game, but every year I'm trying to constantly grow and push myself. I never feel like you know it all. So you can always learn more, for sure.
For sure, man. So, sort of tell the audience, I'd like to have each guest sort of go about, how they grew up and, of course, what made them to who they are today and little things like that. So if you could sort of give us more of an in-depth background of Robert Nichols, I'd love to hear it, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, guys, I was born and raised here in the city of Boston, Massachusetts. My mom came from Jamaica when she was 16. She actually came here thinking she was going on a vacation, but her aunt had said, "Hey, I'm sending you away. You're going to be going to visit your cousins in the States and your aunts in the States." She's like, "Great, no problem." Little did she know, she was in for quite the journey, as she didn't really have the right visa to be able to leave. So they sent her across the border in the night through Mexico, through the desert. At age 16, it was a dangerous journey, especially when you're not mentally prepared for it. So it's kind of a crazy situation, but she made it through, got here, and met my dad here in Boston. And my father, his parents were immigrants. They came from Barbados and built their family here. My grandfather was a military veteran. He served in World War II, even before he was a citizen here in the U.S. And so they connected. And here I am. I have one sister, and my parents kind of split up when I was 8, and my mom had 2 more kids. So I have 2 other siblings as well. And that's pretty much it. That's from my childhood. As far as like my career and how I kind of got into real estate. So as a kid, I honestly, guys, had no idea what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of young people, it's just tough to know. I mean, we don't have a ton of exposure to different things depending on, what environment you're coming from. So from that perspective, I kind of just fell into working corporate. I started off in a grocery store chain after I graduated from college. Back in 2002. It was the first job offer I got, only job offer I got. The job market wasn't that great back then. And so started working as an assistant manager, and I had interned with the company while I was in school as well, and worked my way up, worked in logistics for a year. And then I went into corporate, and I ended up being there for 3 years or so. But along the way, I ended up getting my real estate license on the advice of a family friend who also worked for the company. I remember he left an impression on me because he worked there too. And we had a regional meeting. He came in with a $10,000 check. And this is when I was like 22, right out of college. I'm like, how the heck does this guy make 10 grand? Where he's a couple years older than me, selling real estate. And I'm here slaving away, making 36,000 a year. And so it really made an impression on me. And I ended up buying a property shortly thereafter. And in addition to that, I got my license a year later. And that was kind of my first foray into it. And I was doing it part-time initially, moonlighting as an agent. So my weekends and evenings were pretty much just all about showings. I remember I was one of those guys as a young agent, I would do 10 showings straight, back to back, like just grinding, because to be successful in anything, you got to be willing to put in the work. And that's really my mantra, just making sure I'm putting in the work sufficient to what I'm trying to achieve. But, so I did that part-time. And then in 2008, I had the opportunity to leave my full-time job and get into real estate full-time by working as a project manager for a new construction company. Now, For those of you that don't know, 2008 is obviously was a crazy year. It was the year that basically the financial markets had a huge meltdown, the biggest meltdown of our lifetimes, and pretty much since the Great Depression. And so the company was kind of a young construction company, and within 2 years they were out of business. It was crazy events that occurred. One of the principals actually took his own life. It was that traumatic for him to see his multi-million-dollar portfolio evaporate into nothing in the course of a few years. So it was quite the journey. I learned a lot through all of that, and I started flipping houses because by 2010 the company pretty much was dissolved, and I was on my own. But I had started flipping in 2009 with a partner, and then slowly but surely have continued to grow my business and expand into lending, expanding my brokerage. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, it's been quite the journey. I do have a lot of experience through that, and that's why I'm here today, to definitely share and really help folks kind of understand if they're thinking about getting into real estate, or just kind of understand the principles that are really going to lay the foundation for being a successful entrepreneur. Definitely want to share that today.
Definitely, Rob. I appreciate you, really just sharing your story a little bit and your background. I think it's incredible, just like, how different people come from all different walks of life, and what they can transform their life to be. And a lot of us,
Right.
I mean, we don't really realize, what we want to do starting out, but, eventually we get into that position, and it's like, man, is this really what what I want to do? But then it's like that passion just comes out of you, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I love this. So I think you being
100%.
a realtor speaks a lot of volume, to say the least. And I feel like, because again, with my audience being a lot of millennials and things like that, they want to get into business. They want to get possibly into real estate. I talk with a lot of younger, people coming out of college and just coming out of high school.
Yep.
And they're like, Nate, how can I start? What can I do to become, successful when it comes to business? And of course, you can tell them all day, every day about, pick up Think and Grow Rich, pick up How to Win Friends and Influence People, do all
Right.
these remarkable things, with personal development. But I feel like they just don't have necessarily a roadmap, some direction. And of course, somebody like you, I think it'd be perfect, for you to drop some knowledge maybe on how to, start a business, but maybe I'm already in business, and how to substantially level up and sort of grow that business. So maybe you can drop
Right.
some gems along the lines of that.
Yeah, no, 100%, guys. And just to be clear too, like, my family didn't have a lot of money. My father was an electrician. My mom was a hairstylist as a kid, and she did some working with kids and different things. So it was all grinding, all putting in work. But I think what really kind of changed the trajectory. So first and foremost, once I got into real estate, I loved it. And I think you hit on a great point. When you find that thing that really inspires you to kind of get out and get up every day and just put in the work and go above and beyond, you become self-motivated. There's really no one pushing you. It's all you. I think that's first and foremost. So once you find that, it's on you to make sure it's something that's authentic and true to who you are. And the second piece, so real estate's an interesting career path because, there's really not a lot of degrees. I did hear recently there's like one school, a couple schools in the country where you can get an undergrad degree about, real estate or, real estate development and different things, which are great. But it's a very broad career path. I mean, you have the financial side. On the lending piece, you have being an agent representing buyers and sellers, or doing rentals, property management, sales, development. I mean, list goes on, guys, on the commercial side too. And so I think really what helped me a ton early on in my career, after realizing how much I really enjoyed it, was mentorship. So when I went to work for the new construction company, one of the founders, same kind of situation, graduated from a local state school here in Massachusetts. And when he finished, kind of was bouncing around from job to job. Someone kind of took him under his wing and showed him the real estate financing side. And so that's how he got in and eventually scaled it into development himself. But he kind of did the same for me. He kind of paid it forward and mentored me and empowered me to be able to learn and grow and really foster my passion and give me direction on how I needed to be thinking about scaling my business over time. Understanding financing was huge, and then understanding project management as well. And so really, I think the first and foremost, being willing to seek mentorship, and understanding that, you don't have much to offer other than your time and your commitment to helping this individual. So, I had an intern who worked for me for a little bit for free, and he's been with me now almost 6 years, and he's really, just starting to come into his own. But he's been with me since he was 19, and so he's almost 25, so just under 6 years. But I believe that him coming here, and he even says it changed his life, changed the trajectory of his life for sure. And I'm grateful to be able to give back and pay it forward to him and others who come along, and I've helped them grow their careers. But I think first and foremost, you really want to find a mentor, but have the mentality that you're there to give of yourself in order to learn. And eventually you're going to be able to go on your own, but don't get caught up in how much you can make. And even if it's part-time, depending on how it's structured, obviously you got to make a living and be able to have income to sustain your lifestyle. But first and foremost, understand what you can offer in order to, make it advantageous for them to work with you. So that's really, I think, the foundation of folks who are looking to get into real estate, of what they need to focus on.
For sure. Yeah, definitely having a mentor, super crucial. Would you say it might be a little bit more difficult to find a mentor within real estate compared to just general business? Because I feel like, with a lot of realtors out there, they might say, man, I just don't know who do I go to? Like there's so many
Right.
other people I could go to, but how do I know exactly the one that might, fit? Maybe I'm introverted and I want an extroverted mentor, right? Maybe I
Right.
want somebody that can fit my personality. So what might be, a little bit of a strategy that you might have used to really help you find the right mentor? You know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah, no, I think it just comes with experience. I mean, first and foremost, I think, you want to do your research, do due diligence on whoever you're going to be working with. And, it has to feel right. At the end of the day, it may not be the first person you go to that is a good fit, but I've heard stories of many entrepreneurs who just kind of went knocking on doors, went talking to people, making phone calls. And honestly, Nate, it's really about committing to finding someone who's the right fit. The commitment is the primary driver of your ability to find someone who's going to take you where you're trying to go and assist you in your growth. And that's, once you commit to it, and even if it doesn't work out initially, I think that you can kind of just continue to commit to finding someone, and you'll be fine. I mean, you can look online, obviously. I mean, of all the places, Nate, I found that that ad for that job was on Craigslist. There's a guy looking for a local real estate agent or expert in a particular neighborhood, the Dorchester neighborhood, which is where I grew up, to interview for a position, project management and sales management position. So I also they brought me in initially to help with the sales as well. But as the market shifted, I was clear they weren't going to be selling anything. It was going to be either rentals or, just moving on. So, that's kind of what happened. But, I committed to making sure I was going to find an environment that fostered what I was trying to do. So I think that's more important than necessarily trying to find the right person. But I think, tools like on Zillow, you can kind of see who the local agents are, who are top producers. And even if you don't necessarily work for them directly, you can work in that environment in their office and see if you're going into an office with a lot of agents and some who do investing as well, it's going to give you exposure to a lot of different aspects of the business. So I think it's really important to try to potentially pick someone who's not on an island by themselves, but someone who's in an environment where you can kind of just soak that all in. And trust me, it's a busy industry, Nate. And these offices will happily have a young buck come in and assist and help out if they have the right work ethic.
Wow. No, I gotcha. That's intriguing. I know you mentioned, the words agent and investor.
Yes.
I hear those words a lot when it comes, within the real estate realm of things. And I feel like some people, they might not understand, the one word from the other. They might think it's the same thing. So
Right.
in the Robert Nichols terms, what's the difference between, an agent and an investor?
Great question, Nate. So the biggest thing is this: to become a real estate agent or / realtor, you have to get your real estate license. So you start off, every state has different guidelines on
Gotcha.
how to do this, but typically you have to take a course. It could range from, 40 hours to ever like 180 hours. Sometimes you have to have a college degree to become a licensed agent. Yes, in some states, I'm not sure. I think potentially California, I'm not 100% on that, but Massachusetts, no college degrees required. But you do have to fulfill the course requirement and then take a test. And essentially, that course, no matter where you are in the country, is going to teach you about local real estate laws and practices more so than anything else, as well as national laws and practices. So, it helps make sure you're compliant with codes of ethics, equal housing opportunity, and just understand the history of the housing industry as a whole. But it doesn't really teach you how to transact. It's not going to teach you, the course itself It's not going to teach you how to do a deal or structure deals and things of that nature. That comes after you go to start working for a brokerage. So once you get your salesperson's license to become an agent, you have to work under a broker. In order to become a broker, requires even more time and experience. Definitely have to have experience in the industry. Depending on the state, it could be 2 years, could be 5 years. And then you can sit for the broker class and then sit for the exam. Now, people throw the word realtor around a lot, and a realtor is actually an agent who is a member of the National Association of Realtors. So as a broker or agent, once you get your license, the NAR, that's what it's short for, National Association of Realtors, is the largest trade organization in the country. And so by joining them, you're basically going to get access to tons of resources, tools. Most offices, a lot of offices are members. So if you join an office as a member, you have to join. But and we hold ourselves to a higher standard. So I am a realtor now. In years past, initially I was, and then after the crash, a lot of my agents were like, we can't afford to pay the membership fee. So of course you gotta do what makes sense at that time. But we are back. We're members of the NAR now, and it's really a great resource. So being an agent is basically helping buyers, sellers, landlords, anyone either buy or sell a home or rent an apartment. So you're really a salesperson. You're becoming a real estate salesman or saleswoman. And you're facilitating real estate transactions. Now, on the other side, if you're an investor, you're actually engaging in transactions. It doesn't require a license, but you got to know what you're doing, because there's many different types of investors. You got buy and hold guys, you got flippers, you got wholesalers, you got commercial guys. It's just a very different model, and you really have to start. Like most new investors, I think the first thing people think about is flipping houses or assigning contracts or wholesaling deals, which is great because that's something that I think flipping is a little bit more complex. But if you start by wholesaling or assigning contracts, you can kind of find a property that's undervalued, find an investor who wants it, and then wholesale it to them. There's plenty of vehicles for you to be able to finance it yourself, or have him pay an assignment fee and assign the contract to him. So he pays you, and you change the contract to reflect his name, and then you're able to make some money there. So investing, again, doesn't require a license. You can kind of get started once you're 18 and of legal age, and you can get out here and find some deals. And the key in real estate, if you find the deals, everything else will fall into place. And so I think really young entrepreneurs, whether you're an agent or an investor, should definitely focus on how to find deals. And so I recently did a video, not sure if you saw it yet, about my 4 key ways of finding deals, but that fundamentally is a skill that you're going to learn after the courses and the study. And usually that's learned in whatever environment or whatever mentor you go to work with.
Wow, for sure. You mentioned the word flipping. I feel like that's a term that gets passed around a lot, whether you're in real estate or looking to become into real estate. And I feel like a lot of the millennial generation, they say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna flip houses," right? And I feel I feel like there might be some pros and some cons that maybe people starting out or looking to get into it should be aware of. Maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Absolutely. I got caught up in it too, Nate. As a young flipper, the only thing I saw was dollar signs. I was ready to make that money, man. That's what it's all about. And so, I got in with that perspective, and, it was a rough couple of years. We did a few projects. First project, we hit a home run, and I think that was the worst thing that ever happened to me, because I was so cocky. I was so overconfident with very limited skills and very limited experience as a flipper. I had been in real estate for a little bit, but had never flipped a house. And so the next one, we took on one of the major projects in the city. Probably one of the biggest, actually, to this day, one of the biggest projects I've done. And it took us like triple the time that we initiated thought, but more importantly, it took us triple the budget. And we ended up finishing that project with a significant loss. And so I learned more from that, believe it or not, than I did from that first home run we hit, where I thought I was Superman out here, unstoppable. You couldn't tell me nothing, So with that, I think, you really want to understand that flipping requires an understanding and a process. And if you follow the process, it increases your probability of success. There's always things that happen, mitigating factors that you can't control. But, at the end of the day, if you follow a process that is tried, tested, and proven, it definitely significantly will increase your chances of success. And just put that ego to the side. Just focus on, all right, finding a deal that meets my ratio, making sure the budget's tight, making sure you have the right people, the right team to execute the process. that way, if the market shifts or something changes, you may not make as much as you thought, but you're still set up for success because your process was tight from the beginning.
Mm, for sure. And that's where I'm assuming that mentorship can come in and really help guide somebody along the way. No, that's incredible, Rob.
Absolutely. Yep.
I know, of course, you're based in the Boston area and in the Boston market, up in that area, Dorchester, Roxbury. So
Yep.
I know you do a lot of traveling, countries to United States, of course,
Yep.
throughout the nation and the globe. So how unique is the Boston market compared to some of these, other markets that, you travel, you might be aware of? Because I know you, of course, do your research and things like that. So how different is the Boston market compared to all these other markets? Because whenever I came up there, we met up and earlier this year, 2018
Right.
in Boston, I was taken aback. I was a bit surprised with just how the houses were laid out, and I know you were sort of filling me in, with some numbers and just the market in general and all the construction that's going on. My goodness. So
Absolutely, man.
how unique is that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So it's a historic city, one of
Yeah.
the oldest cities in the country. And so with that, our city wasn't really planned for the kind of infrastructure or kind of population that we have now. So the infrastructure is a little outdated, antiquated. So it's a lot of people kind of cramming in a very small and older style city between the hospitals, the universities. That really brings in a lot of talent. Obviously students are coming here, and then which also brings in companies and businesses to kind of want to pool that talent. They want to farm all that talent that's here. So it's a city that's really going through a rapid and unprecedented growth right now. I mean, we are seeing, they're really trying to push the population up to, almost double in the next, I think, 2020 or something like that, I think in the next few years. So, relative to a lot of other cities around the country and around the world I've been to, I think that definitely our growth rate is probably significantly higher. And so it does create an opportunity to really take advantage of that as an investor from on the long term. I mean, I think we really get it right on that front as far as being able to understand how to have a very strong economy here. And, our city is run very well. I mean, but again, our mayor, I believe, has the benefit, as I said, of the universities being here and some of the best hospitals in the world as well. So it's an international city, and there's definitely the development is showcasing that as well. And you have buyers who are buying some of these high-rise luxury condos now from all over the world, Asia and Europe. They're buying units here in Boston. It's convenient to travel, a little less shorter flight than New York. So I think we have that benefit too, right across the Atlantic. So yeah, no, I think that we definitely have that benefit of being a world-class city over a lot of other places, just with all the history here and having schools like Harvard and MIT and Mass General Hospital. So yeah, no, it's a great place to live. I mean, and obviously it's a city that people think has no crime. I think that that's one misperception. I mean, as we kind of toured, I know you saw kind of both sides of it. You got to see, Back Bay, South End, Dorchester, Roxbury, and where everybody lives, which is, it's a very diverse city as well. And so I think with that, definitely it's there's a lot more to Boston, I think, than meets the eye. But it's definitely tons of restaurants, tons of food, tons of culture. So it's a pretty cool place to live and visit.
Yeah, I'd say, whenever I was up there, I was just very taken back with all the, of course, the diversities that were there, and most importantly, how close everything is together.
Right,
I was
right.
expecting, because again, that was my first time in Boston. I've never been there before until earlier this year. I was just so taken aback by just how close everything was, and I was expecting things to be more, I guess, open, if that makes
Yep.
sense. I feel like
Tight, man.
I
Oh,
feel like
tight.
the movies sort of make it a little bit
Right.
different than what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, everything is tight. And that's the one thing. I mean, you could be driving down the street and then right in the middle of the street, boom, skyscraper,
It's
It's
true.
old infrastructure, old roads. It wasn't really planned. So that's one of the downsides that living in a historic city. But, the mayor does a great job. It's a clean city.
It
One
is.
of the cleanest cities I've been to. I mean, I think everyone comments when they come here, every part of the city, they really make sure they keep things looking good. So, yeah, no, it's definitely unique. And I think, again, we're uniquely positioned from the real estate market to really do well. Even during the financial crisis, certain pockets of the city were hit hard, but by and large, the core, Boston proper, really didn't see much of a change at all.
Wow, for sure.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit along the lines of, your daily schedule, right? I'm sure, I mean, I know there's some days where you probably just can't even fit everything in. You're just nonstop busy. Um, family
Right,
family life, I'm sure that can be a little bit tough at times because it's like you need to have that work-life balance. So
right.
I would love to hear you sort of talk about maybe just some simple things that you implement within your daily schedule, but
Yep.
mainly your morning routine, because I know people that have a hard time getting up in the mornings and implementing a set of principles that they can really kickstart their day with, right? So I
Got it.
would
Yep.
love to hear some of these things that you apply within your life.
Got it. So one thing I didn't mention, I did play football in college. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I've been an athlete pretty much all my life. Since I was a young adolescent all the way up until my sophomore year of school. And I always loved lifting weights, training, running. It's always been something I love to do my whole life pretty much. So first thing I do every day, I try to get up at least 5 to 6 days a week and get out there and work out. Could be jumping rope, could be jogging, could be lifting weights, but the key is to do something. So I try to get out between 5 and 6 a.m. And I know not everyone's an early riser, but I think it's so important to get that time and kind of try to own that first hour of the day because it really sets the tone for the rest of your day. So typically my day starts out by working out. And then from there, it's on, man. I'm rushing home to get the kids ready and make sure they get to the bus stop by 7:25 a.m. And then depending on what's going on, I try not to take meetings before 1 p.m. just so I can get caught up on emails, list new listings, follow up on projects, tour my projects, and just check in with my team to make sure we're looking good for the day. And then usually I'll take listing appointments and meetings after 1 p.m. and later in the afternoon so that my morning is free to kind of really focus on the stuff that needs attention as far as just follow up and closing out things. And then my afternoons are more focused on new business and new opportunities. So I really am able to do that. And then typically it just depends on any given day. I could be home by 6, I could be home by 9. Depends on what's going on, but I really try to keep a balance, which is hard as hell. Just the reality. When you have 4 kids and they're busy and active as well. But I try to get home within a reasonable time to at least enjoy some time with them on a daily basis as well. So I'm running and ripping, man. But at the end of the day, I'm still young. I got tons of energy. I love what I do, and it's a challenge that I enjoy at the end of the day. So, but I think it's important. I was talking to one of my young agents the other day, and I was telling him because he was struggling with his scheduling. Because that's a good question you asked. He's like, "How do you do it?" And I told him just kind of adopt that same system where your morning routine. If you work out early, get out there, try to get out there as early as possible. But first and foremost, make sure that you have your day structure where, if you have deals that you're working on, you really make sure everything is flowing in the right direction on those. And then the new business is what you focus on, your marketing, meetings with new customers and clients on the latter part of the day, so that every day you're giving both sides of your business attention, because you don't want to slack off on one, because it is really important to keep the relationships you have, but at the same time, develop new ones too.
Yeah, I like what you said about, that system, right? Because I feel like I know myself, it happens to me a lot. I have my personal brand, and I have, the business, and of course,
Right,
that family time. And it's like
right,
hitting all three can be so difficult because obviously a lot of people, they want to focus on what pays the bills. And of
right.
course you want to focus on family, but you might not be able to focus on your brand or whatever else that you're looking to do. Now yeah, that really hit home with me, and I'm sure it hits home with a lot of other people because one of the biggest things I feel like is just the scheduling. Like people just don't know how to effectively schedule. They just go about their days in mind. Okay, I got to get this done, but they don't necessarily write it down on paper. They don't have
100%. Right.
something in their phone that might remind them on what it is that they should do, maybe with their calendar. So is there maybe a simple technique that you might use? Do you have a maybe, I don't know, maybe you have an assistant for this that does your scheduling and things, or what would you recommend somebody starting out to just do with really just going about their schedule the best way possible and maximizing on those 3 areas in my case, or just however many areas in their life, that way they can have a well balanced schedule.
Got it. No, great question, Nate. So
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of my young guys here, and I call them buckets. I got my realtor bucket. I got my flip bucket because I'm doing flips. I got my lending bucket,
Yeah.
and then I have my personal brand bucket. And so I have to make sure each one of those is getting attention on a daily basis. So I will block off time, whether it's an hour for each one. Sometimes I had to kind of got to play with that time. Maybe it's 2 hours for one particular block or another block, or the bucket there. But you block off that time for that particular, whatever it is that you want to get done, so that you have that hour or 2 hour window where you're laser focused on that. And then once that's done, take a little break, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then jump into the next thing. And then jump into the next thing and jump into the next one. And usually that's the first part of my morning, because I'm able to kind of hit a little bit across the board. And even if there's stuff I don't get to, I know that, okay, I left this, and I just make a quick note of it. I use Evernote, so it kind of keeps me honest on that. And then I can focus on, anything new coming up in the afternoon. Like I'm going to meet at 3:00 today. I'm going to meet with a client. It's a pretty good sized deal in South Boston. We're going to meet and talk and see if we can put something on paper and finalize terms. I know that has to happen, but then I know there's stuff from the morning still left. So I push it all to 5 p.m. so that anything that I didn't hit, I'm going to get to it this evening, and just make sure I get done the essentials. And if I can't get to it today, it's okay pushing it to tomorrow. We're not delivering babies. There's no emergencies or crises, unless it is an emergency. But otherwise, tomorrow's okay. It's okay to push it to tomorrow. As far as tools, as I said, I use Evernote, and I use my calendar and my phone, my iPhone. And again, even if you don't have a lot going on, it's a really good habit to start putting it in your calendar now, because once it gets crazy, and I can attest to this, mind is not going to remember everything, and you're going to miss that appointment. You're going to miss that opportunity. That may mean the difference of you shortening your learning curve and missing on an opportunity that literally could change the trajectory of your life. And so from that perspective, start engaging with the right habits now, in order to really start to scale things, so that when it gets busy, you're already prepared and ready to handle it.
Absolutely. What's one, I know you mentioned Evernote, but what is one thing, it's going to be a little bit of a question that makes you think, what's one thing that you utilize on a daily basis, whether it's in your business, it's in your personal life, with family, that you just could not live without at all? Like you always use it on a consistent basis. That makes sense.
Yeah, no problem. 100%, Nate. I'll tell you, Evernote, I mentioned it,
Yeah.
but literally my life is in there. Like everything I need is there. If I didn't have that, I'd be in trouble. I mean, it keeps me focused. It helps me just always kind of revert back to, okay, what's essential? What has to happen today? Where am I at as far as my goals? What's my vision looking like, for the next quarter? Am I on target? Am I off target? What do I need to change? So I use it as a tool, for everything that kind of just, pops into my mind. Journaling, the whole nine. I mean, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife.
Wow.
It can do it all. I know it's won a bunch of awards over the years. And so I definitely understand why. And it's hard for me to understand why folks don't use it. But at the end of the day, I'm a creature of habit, and it's definitely a habit I've developed. And I do depend on that tool, for my business, as far as just something that I use personally. The other piece is my team members. I do have 2 assistants who work for me. One of my guys, he's an expert sales caller. And as an agent, if you can find someone who can definitely call and kind of bring the business in for you, it definitely is going to help you scale your business way faster. Or again, when you're young, you have the time. So it's good for you to start doing that yourself. You know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily need to pay someone to do it, especially if you have the time to do it. And it's going to teach you the process. It's going to teach you kind of the things and strategies that you want to adopt to be able to really be successful at it, so that you can coach someone to do the same thing. Because there's no better teacher than experience, getting in there and just doing it yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. So in regards to time, let's say I'm an agent right now that's listening, or maybe I'm just, an entrepreneur, a business owner that it's crossed my mind that I potentially need an assistant, but I just don't know exactly maybe how to find one, or I just don't know if it is time. Maybe I still have some time in the day to organize, but maybe I'm just undecided on what to do. So I guess in your
Yep.
life, when was it that you made that decision that clicked in your head
Yep.
that said, okay, Rob, now is the time to get, yourself an assistant?
100%. Great question. I think as the business grows, and as you can no longer have the time to do the tasks, whether it's on the administrative side or if it's on the marketing side or the sales side, if there's something that is requiring more attention and you're not able to give it that attention anymore because you're being pulled in a different direction, because as an entrepreneur, a business owner, you got to really become self-aware and understand where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And based on that, your strengths, you're always going to gravitate to the things that you enjoy more. You're always going to be pulled in the direction of your strengths. And so as you no longer have the energy or time to be able to do those tasks that are you find to be difficult and challenging, I think it's really important to just definitely delegate those, so that, you can really start to double down on where you're strong. And again, this also is a big function of your success. And as your business grows, you may not be bringing enough income to justify it. But if you are, then definitely you can do that. And, there's great platforms to find virtual assistants too, where you can kind of test them out and pay by the hour. I've also I have one assistant who works here. I have one a virtual assistant. So they both work for me every day, 5 days a week, from Monday to Friday. And, my assistant who's here, even on the weekend, sometimes if I need him, and he's available, he'll come through for me. But I think that that's really a huge factor as far as just kind of where your business is at, if you can afford to do it as well. So that's really kind of for me when it clicked, when I started realizing I can't handle the administrative side of running a brokerage anymore, and run a project at the same time. That was just, one project, okay, I could swing it. Then you get to 2, then you get to 3, then you get to 4. It's impossible. Yeah. And so, right around when I think I got to my second, when I was doing 2 projects at once, I knew, and then, I had an opportunity to bring someone in, and that was pretty much the deciding factor for me when I just couldn't do it anymore, and I had enough income to justify it.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a lot of people that they just don't know that time. So I'm glad that you touched on that. I guess in regards to some attributes, what are some characteristics when looking for an assistant that they have to have, right? Maybe it's patience, maybe it's right, just something or a couple or a few that stand out in mind that can make them an assistant that is, of course, of your caliber. Because doggone well, there's some assistants out there. They're just in it to be in it. They might not be the best, right? So what are some of the
going through the motions?
Right.
Yeah, 100%, man. No, it's I had assistants like that who are no longer here, who kind of just going through the motions, just here for the check. I mean, I think the first and foremost, reliability is one. You got to be reliable.
Okay.
Especially when you're an entrepreneur, like you have deadlines, you have timelines, and I'm not going to get paid if I don't deliver to my customers or my clients or to someone buying a house from me. Yet, your assistant wants to get paid if, even if they come late or if they don't deliver. And so I think that, as an assistant, someone coming in, and even as an entrepreneur looking for assistance, you really want to make sure you're getting someone who's first and foremost reliable. They don't have to love the industry. They don't have to be an expert in the industry, but they have to be someone who you can depend on to come in and fill in for you and do what has to be done, based on what you guys agreed upon. So that's the first piece. Second thing, you want someone who's just a hard worker. Like it sounds, so cliche, but fundamentally, if you work hard, you're going to be successful. There's no denying that. You obviously have to understand what the target is, what the goal is. But if you put in the work and put in the effort, you are going to be successful at the end of the day. So reliability, got to be, self-motivated and ready to work hard. And, just someone who is really looking to better themselves and better their lives, because you want positive energy, in that environment. You don't want someone who's Debbie Downer, someone who's negative coming in. But positivity is definitely a huge piece of that too. Everyone, obviously gravitates towards positivity, and we push away from negativity. So, those are kind of, I guess, the 3 keys, in my opinion, to hiring someone who's, going to be a good fit and who's going to really help you grow, and it'll be a win-win for the two of you.
Definitely, Rob. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. And again, that goes for assistants, and I'm sure the same thing goes as well for, business partners, right? There's
absolutely 100%.
Definitely.
Yep, you got it.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit, in regards to motivation, right? Because, with everything that you've done, Rob, I mean, it's remarkable. And I definitely have, like I said, a lot of respect for yourself as an entrepreneur and an investor, and of course, just in real estate. I think it's incredible. And for somebody like
likewise,
you, I appreciate that. There's a lot of things, I'm sure, in a daily basis that, can sidetrack you. Right.
Right.
But what's that, I guess you can say why. What's your why that keeps you going every single day, where you wake up and you're not like, okay, I'm going to hit the snooze button, right? Like, you get up, you're excited, you're energized.
Right.
What
Right.
is your
Right.
why that makes you go on a consistent basis to perform at your highest level?
100%. Great question, Nate. So, as I told you, I use Evernote, and I have kind of my overreaching goals, and I kind of have my short-term goals. But two of the things that I think characterize who I am, and again, this just comes from self-awareness. It comes from time. I've realized that, what drives me is really helping people change their lives. Whether I'm hiring somebody, whether I'm helping a seller, whether I'm helping a homeless guy out in the street. I met with a guy one day. I was at one of my projects. He came by to really, just walking by. He's like, "Hey, man, love what you've done to the place. Can you help me find a place?" He's like, "I'm selling these as condos." I'm like, "These are condos. I don't have a place for you." He's like, "Man, I make a, small amount I get from, like, I think disability or something per month." And he was basically just looking for help. And I said, "You know what? There's an organization I know of that helps people exactly in your situation." And I assumed, I'm like, of course he heard of them before, because you're homeless. You're going to do the research to find out what organizations are out there that can put you in a place immediately.
Yeah.
And Nate, surprisingly, the guy had no clue, had never heard of the organization before.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, that's crazy. Yeah. So, I really, and that was one experience. And I had a client, like the next day, who was disabled, who recently became disabled, and she needed some help with some things at her house. I came to visit her and help her out and give her some good advice as far as some resources to get the things done she needed around the house. And, I started reflecting, looking back on my life. I'm like, man, I've always looked for opportunities to help better people's lives, to help people change their circumstances. If they were, someone who, facing some struggles, if I was in a position to just give them some advice and encourage them, or however I could help them, I think that, that's kind of something that really characterizes everything I do in my interactions with people. And so from that perspective, every day when I get up, the reality is I'm out here and looking for opportunities to help folks change their lives, whether it's through my videos, spreading knowledge, that folks can take as actionable items to change their life. Because, no change happens without action. And there's people out here who are ready for it, and there's folks who are out here who are not. But at the end of the day, if I give them some pieces or some information that they can kind of utilize, if there's someone who's serious about getting to that destination, then, definitely it's worth it to me. And so that's what drives me every day, understanding and knowing that I've been positioned and empowered to help others change their lives. And at the same time, I really am inspired by the challenge of looking to see who can I outwork today. We kind of joke in my office about it, like, who's outworking you today? We ask each other all the time. And it's a great way to kind of motivate each other. We have a board where we keep track of our deals and different things. And, everyone's in here looking at the deal board every day, like, all right, who's closing what? And, like, if you see someone passing you, you're like, all right, I know what I got to do. I'm going to put in that work. And I'm going to show you what it's about. But, those are kind of, I think, the two overreaching themes and things every morning that come to the first thing I read and look at is just kind of understanding, all right, who you going to outwork today and how many lives you're going to change today. And it's just in my nature to want to do that. And so I'm blessed to be empowered to do it.
Absolutely. It's funny you touched on that board. I was going to mention that whenever I walked into your office, I looked at that board.
Oh yeah.
And in my mind, psychologically, I'm just like, all right, who's number one? Like, who's number one,
yep.
who's not doing, necessarily the best, who's in the middle. Because personally,
Right.
myself, that would drive me so much in terms of just like, okay, I want to outwork, whoever's at the top. If Bob's at the top,
Right.
man, I'm coming for you, Bob. You ain't getting past me.
That's right. And those are the conversations we have every day.
Yeah.
I mean, right here, and it motivates even the guy. I'm number 2 right now, but not for long. I got 3 making some ground because I've been focused on my projects, but we got some deals in the pipeline. But we joke every day about it, and it keeps everyone motivated, and it's a good friendly competition where everyone enjoys, and it keeps you focused. So, and it really shows you how hard you can work, what you're capable of when you push yourself, and when you're enjoying what you're doing.
Absolutely. I like how you said it's a friendly competition because, man, some companies out there, they be doing whatever it takes to take that number one spot.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no, culturally, it's a great fit. All the guys get along well, and guys and girls, and it's a fun place to be, man, every day.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, Rob. Of course, I'm sure you do read, a good amount of books, of course, with personal development, personal development and things like that. What's one book that hasn't just stood out to you, right? But it's not really well known, right? I mean, we know the Think and Grow Riches, we know the How to Win Friends and Influence People, we know the Dale Carnegies and Napoleon Hills and those types of authors. What is one book
Yes.
in your life that maybe somebody doesn't necessarily know of? Maybe it's within real estate, maybe it's just something that, is motivational or inspirational, that has had a significant impact on yourself, that if somebody got their hands on it, it could literally just revolutionize their entire life, relationship, marriage, and or business.
Got it. I think one book that really changed my perspective, it's more specific to business and even just relationships in general. It's called The Purple Cow. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh yeah, Purple Cow.
Seth Godin? Yeah, Seth Godin.
Yep.
Yep. So I read that when I was much younger, many years ago, and it really was impactful. Just kind of understanding, how you need to stand out in business and but at the end of the day, Nate, I think it speaks more to authenticity more than anything else. And really encouraging anyone, entrepreneurs, or, just in your personal life, to just be who you are and embrace it and own it, because you're only going to be at your best when it's real, when it's really a part of who you are and you understand your why, you understand what makes you different in a good way, and what makes you, just what motivates you to really think deep and try to cultivate a business and a life that, you want to have for yourself. But no, as a young businessman, it really was a good one. And another one, and I think the author's name is Victor Peacock. This one, you probably haven't heard of this one. It's called Water the Flowers, Not the Weeds. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
That was a really, 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 really powerful book for me. I read it when I was, I think, 26. Yeah, I remember, because I just had my son, and someone had given it to me as a gift. And it was really a book about understanding just kind of human psychology first and foremost, but how we can really motivate ourselves and start to understand who we are and how we need to be thinking in order to achieve great success. Definitely one I'd encourage people to check out. Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard of Purple Cow. I haven't read it, so I definitely appreciate that reminder. And then what's the second book called again?
Water the Flowers, Not the Weeds.
Water the
And I believe
Flowers.
the author's, not the weeds. Yeah, the author's last name was Peacock. I think it's Victor Peacock.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that
It's a
out,
great
because
read.
always looking to improve the reading game. You already know.
Absolutely. I've kind of slacked off. I've been working diligently, but amongst everything else I've been doing, Nate, I recently passed my test. So I'll be a licensed builder in the next 30 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it should be coming in the mail, but I did pass my exam. So I've been studying for that for quite a while in between everything else I'm doing. But I'm glad to get that, because it's really going to help streamline my process of developing projects and working in the city of Boston here.
Absolutely. I'm sure that was a big reliever.
Oh man, I mean, you got like 5 books, like huge. It's good to get it over with. I'll tell you, I'm
For
happy.
sure. No, definitely. I can imagine.
Yep. 100%. Yep. So as I say, I'm always committed to learning and growing and developing, and this is kind of just a natural progression of my career to take this on as well.
Definitely. Are there any types of maybe real estate podcasts or just podcasts in general that you listen to on a consistent basis maybe?
Man, so I listen to quite a few. I got Gary V. He's obviously a dude just out here grinding, putting in work every day. I admire his energy as well, and definitely inspires me to continue to see if I can outwork him. I know he's out here. He says he's booked from like, I think 8 a.m. He's scheduled from 8 a.m. to like 11 a.m. every day.
It's insane.
Yeah. Yep, it is, man. And I commend him for it. Nothing but respect for him. But I also like to listen to Lewis House. I think he has a lot of interesting guests on the show who can teach and share a lot from many different walks of life. So I like the diversity of perspectives that he gets on his show. And he's a really good interviewer as well, similar to yourself. And I also like, no problem, man. And I also like Masters of Scale with Reid Hoffman. So that one's more on the tech side of things, but I've learned a lot from just hearing some of these great, business titans of our day, the Mark Zuckerbergs and some of these other guys as founders of Instagram and Spotify on there, kind of just sharing their thoughts and insights on business as a whole, and even in their personal lives, kind of the things that they're going through. And it's a pretty cool platform he has as far as how he interviews them and gets them to kind of open up and share a lot across the board. Funny stories as well. So yeah, those are kind of, I guess, my top 3.
Yeah, for sure. I saw Lewis House. He interviewed Kobe Bryant or something.
I heard that one. Yeah, absolutely. He had Kobe on there recently. Yep.
Wow, yeah, I definitely
Yep.
want to check that out because, man, the Mamba, you can't pass greatness up on that one.
100%. And it's funny, Nate, you bring that specific interview up because, like, if you hear all these guys talk, it's a common theme.
Mm,
Kobe said when he was, I think he said when he was like 11, 12, he was like the worst kid on his team, like the worst.
yeah,
And, his father just told him, he's like, listen, son, I love you whether you score or don't score. He didn't even score a single point during the summer league he was on, one of the best summer leagues in Philadelphia. He didn't score a single point. And then within 2 years, he was the best player in the league, and he said for him, it was just math. He said, I just committed that I was going to practice every day. I was going to outwork everyone. And so he just, every day, he said it was just straight math. And I think that really speaks to, you see Gary Vee preaching the same thing. A lot of young folks get caught up in the image, like the fancy cars and all that stuff. And that's great to have. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Same thing. I enjoy nice cars and nice things just like the next person. But I also understand fundamentally to get that, you got to put in work. You got to be willing to elevate your game and understand that the process is what yields all that, all the things that you really, you want at the end of the day. And you really need to understand falling in love with the process, what that means. And so, I think that, that's one thing I've adopted as well. Cause I get it. I've seen it too much. Like I said, when I was young, man, in my 20s, total different guy, total different perspective.
oh, I can
But
imagine.
life,
Yeah,
life will do that. Life will humble you. Life will teach you if you're only willing to listen and learn at the end of the day.
absolutely. Those are great principles, Rob. Another podcast that I just listened to recently. You ever hear Joe Rogan?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, he
Yep.
just interviewed Elon Musk. I'm not sure if you listened to that one yet.
I haven't heard. I have Joe Rogan's podcast on my phone. I'll check that one out. I didn't know you interviewed Elon.
Yeah, that
Nice.
was such a great episode. Elon,
He's a
yeah.
unique dude, man. He's unique.
I mean, words
Yep.
can't even explain it. He's definitely, like you said, unique and incredible podcast to check out as well. Highly
Nice.
recommend it. But
I'll check it out.
definitely, Rob. But yeah, man, I definitely appreciate your time. I mean, with all the value that you dropped on today's episode, man, I couldn't ask for more. Really, I mean, I hope the audience, and I'm sure that they gathered all the information that you provided, and it's all about applying it now. It's all about executing. So, I guess in terms of social media, maybe websites or things like that. Where can they find you on social media and everything, Rob?
So, guys, you can check me out on IG at Robert L. Nichols. You can check out my website at robertlnichols.com. YouTube/Robert L. Nichols. Again, you see a common theme here. And those are really the places that I think that the majority of my content is going to be on my website, my IG, and YouTube. I'm really looking to grow my YouTube channel, which I'm going to be talking to you about, Nate, coming up soon. But I really need to get some, definitely some help with that. But that's really the platform where the majority of you're gonna find the majority of my work on YouTube for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely taking that video game to the next level too.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. It was about time. Like I said, it's
Oh, yeah.
been a lot in the making. I had a large project that I was working on that consumed the majority of my time for the last 12 months, which is now only 1 month left, man. I got it. Well, this month, not even a couple of weeks, and it'll be on record. So I'm excited to get that one off my plate, and I can really kind of dedicate time to doing, another thing that I love, which is, creating great content to help, again, give people the tools to change their lives and change their businesses.
Absolutely, Rob. Hey, man, I really appreciate again everything that you dropped on this episode. Again, really means a lot. For all the listeners, go follow Robert Nichols on social media. All right, absolutely sensation, incredible guy, as you guys can see. And Rob, really appreciate you being on the show, brother.
Nate, thanks for the opportunity, man. I really appreciate it.
For sure, man. We'll be in touch. All right.
All right, man. Take care.
Talk soon.